Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Getting back to work on the Cobra. So first thing I want to work on with this video is the timing. As I mentioned previously, this thing does have an adjustable timing pointer and an aftermarket pulley and whatnot. So I want to go in, double check the adjustable timer or timing pointer and make sure that it is in the right spot. So in order to do that, I need to pull out the main pulley bolt and see where the key is on the pulley or on the damper, and then make sure that that is indexed directly at 12 o'clock. And then once it's at 12 o'clock, I can make sure that the pointer is pointing at the 0 on the pulley. So that is first thing to do on this. And then once I have everything right, I'm going to check the marks on the damper so I know what to look for, and then I can go ahead and get this thing timed, as I do feel like it's breaking up a little bit in the upper RPM. So I want to check the timing first before I start worrying about replacing plugs and wires and things along those lines. So here I am under the car, and right here is a prime example of why I wanted to look into this, because I was, going off or taking a look at these marks here before, thinking, that they were right, but it looks like they're wrong. Yellow mark looks like it's on the 0. The white mark looks like that's like 8 degrees after top dead center. So I'm curious as to why these are the marked marks for doing timing. So that really leads me to believe that this timing pointer that's on here is not right, as far as it wouldn't be the 0 mark when it flashes. So definitely need to pull the bolts out and figure out where the key is on this balancer and get this thing set to the right position and make sure the timing pointer is right, and then I can go ahead and time this thing right. Off the top of my head, correct timing is 10 degrees according to the manual. And most people run 14 for performance purposes. I do have to double check the ECU in this thing, make sure there's not a chip in it. I haven't done that yet. But I definitely should probably make sure that I don't need to set it at 10 because it's got advanced timing because of some tune or anything. So yeah, that's where we're at here. All right, so here we are back up top. And just kind of want to give you an idea what this has in here as far as the drive system. I don't think I ever really went over this. I'm guessing it's the second owner that installed this, because based on the sales information I found from when the first owner was selling it, the original builder, none of this stuff was listed here. But it appears the second owner, who I knew was in Pennsylvania, which is where this Jones Racing Products company is out of, redid the drive setup on here. The only accessory, as you can see, is the alternator, pretty straightforward. And then this is like a full race car accessory drive. This company sells, you buy the individual components. There's the billet snout that bolts to the damper, and then you get the individual pulleys based on the sizes, all the brackets and whatnot directly from Jones for whatever your installation is. So just kind of wanted to show you what this thing's got on here as far as the setup goes. So I don't believe I have to take the center nut and everything out of the lower. I think I can just unbolt the shaft from the damper, and then I would get to the damper bolts. I'm guessing that's how this works, so I can get this thing clocked to the 12 o'clock and make sure that pointer is in the right position. Once that's done, I'll make sure that the damper is properly marked for what I'm looking for, and we should be able to get the timing set on this thing correctly. So that is the plan. First thing, I'll have to loosen up the alternator to take the tension off the belt, and then I'll try and get that lower drive stuff off. And then one other thing, I did take a look at the ECU. This does have an A9L ECU, but as you can see there, hopefully, there's duct tape covering where the port seal would be. So that means that this thing most likely has a chip of some sort in it. So there is some sort of tune on this. So I'm probably going to try and set it for just the bone stock 10, because normally with the tunes, that's what they tell you to do, because all the timing is in the tune. So that is what I'm going to do, hopefully setting it at the 10. Factory spec will be where it needs to be to work with this tune, and I won't have any issues. Won't have to back it off or anything. All right, and here we are, all the bits off the motor. It was actually pretty easy to get this stuff off the engine, didn't take too long. There's a turnbuckle that you can see there for the alternator, just relieve the slack on it as much as I could. Belt was still pretty tight, so then I loosened the pulley off of the Here you can see the shaft. This is what bolts onto the end of the crankshaft pulley or the damper. I was able to take the end retaining nuts off of it, and then I was able to slide the pulley and just kind of work the belt off of it. So pretty easy. And then those are the 4 bolts that held the hub onto the crank pulley. So that is all off. So now I'm going to go ahead and get the crank pulley bolt out. And that way I can see where the key is in here, get this thing indexed to 12 o'clock perfectly, and then I can get everything checked as far as the timing pointer goes, and then start getting it put back together and get this thing timed. All right, so here we are. I got the bolt out. The crank is now sitting with the keyway straight up at 12 o'clock. And here you can see the marks versus the pointer on the crank pulley. The yellow with the red slash in it, that's kind of in the center, that is the 0 mark. The red that's over like towards the top of this, that is the 10 degree before mark. And the white slash with also the white dot on the edge, that is like 8 after, I think it is. It's not quite 10 after top dead center. So again, who knows what these people did that built this or put this on here. You know, they made these marks, I'm guessing, for their purposes. The adjustable pointer, my plan is to loosen it, set it so it's pointing at the 0 like it's supposed to right here, and then I can time it off of that. And again, I'm going to set it for 10 degrees, and hopefully that is where this engine wants to be. I am just going to double check real quick and pull the cap off the distributor, make sure that it is under the number 1 right now, or 180 degrees, depending on where this crank is currently sitting, but it'll at least let me know that I have it pretty much in the right spot. So that is where we're at the moment. All right, and here you can see I got the pointer moved, and it's where it's supposed to be now. I mean, if you look at where the slots are for the timing pointer, this thing was basically sitting where the screws to adjust it were all the way at the top of the slots. So it was way off. Like I said, it was marked with where that white line is. Now, if you look, it's in line with the 0 degree mark. So got the pointer where I want it now. I'm going to start putting everything back together, and then I can get this thing timed. All right, here we go. Everything is back together now. So next step, it's all tightened up. I'm going to go ahead and get this thing fired up, warmed up, and I can try and get this thing timed and see where we end up. Hopefully setting it at the 10, the thing will run right, and once I take it out for a test drive, no more breaking up in the upper RPMs. All right, well, I just ran it, got it up to temperature, went ahead, pulled the plug out, the pill module for doing the setting up of the timing. It was way off, which I kind of thought it was. So I have it now set. I set it on the 10 before top dead center, which is the factory spec. Got everything tightened up, put the pill back in, revved it. It sounds so much better. The idle is definitely a little bit lopier, so I had it, where it was set before. It was definitely a smoother idle, but I think it was just way too advanced. Yeah, because it was, it was way too retarded. That's what it was. It was like set at after top dead center, if I remember correctly. Either way, right now it's correct. It's at 10 degrees before top dead center. So that mixed with the chip that this thing has in it from whoever tuned it should be good to go as far as performance. So got a couple other things to do to it before I put it back on the road, on the ground. But yeah, definitely looking forward to the next drive and seeing how it runs. All right, so while I'm under the car, I figured I'd give a little update on leaks that need to be addressed. Here, this is the driver's side back of the engine block. You can see it's wet there, and it's been running down and leaking off the bell housing, the little plate that goes between the bell housing and the engine block. You can see it's wet there. It looks like it goes it's coming from where the head meets the block. It's pretty wet right on that seam. Reached around the back thinking, just to double check and make sure it wasn't the intake manifold, because I did replace that gasket and seals, thinking that that's what it was. It's bone dry up at the back of the intake all the way along. I ran my finger under there and along all those mating areas, and it's fine. So yeah, it looks like it's the head gasket that's seeping oil. I'm guessing there's an oil passage along the end or something like that. I'd have to look at an oiling diagram for a small block. forward, but I'm guessing that's where it's coming from. So I'll have to keep an eye on it. I'm eventually do plan on putting aluminum heads on it. Right now it's got the Iron Explorer GT40 heads. I do plan on putting aluminum heads on it eventually, but yeah, that's something I'll have to address. Other one I wanted to just show real quick, the speedometer leak that I addressed in a previous video. It's probably hard to tell, it's a little dark back here, but there are no signs of leaking. It looks like replacing that O-ring did the job, so we are good as far as the speedometer leak goes. There is no oil coming out there. So next thing on the list, trying to resolve the issue of the hot air that's blowing from underneath the dash. Went to Home Depot, and this is a 6-foot length of 3/4 inch copper pipe insulation cut in half. So I've got basically 2 3-foot lengths. So from what I can tell, and reaching my arm up under the dash, looking from inside, looking from outside, the dash seal is right about here, and then it's open all the way down the side to the bottom. So what my goal is to get something wedged back in there to fill in that gap, so that we can keep some of the heat out of this thing, because it's pretty hot. Looking in here, you can see that it's lit up from the light that I have on in the engine bay, and you can see where it all seeps through up there. That's what you see as bright light, and the underside of the body is all gap for hot air to come seeping through and cook me while I'm driving down the road. So that is next thing on the list. Both sides, I'm going to go ahead and try and get that insulation installed. All right, and here is driver's side done. You can see it goes down to the body there, wedged back, all the way up and around. And then here's the curve right where the windshield post comes in. You can see that I also cut off probably as like a 3 to 4 inch long section and split it in half, because I did have to wedge an additional amount right there. And then actually up above where you can't see where this piece ends, there was a small gap that I filled in with the other half of like that 3 to 4 inch section that I cut off. So, and then it was about 36 inches long altogether. I was left with this section, which is probably about 7 inches. So that kind of gives you an idea of what you're gonna need, probably about 29 inches. And 3 or 4 of that will be cut off to fill in some additional gaps. But as you can see, there is no more daylight coming through. So hopefully that means when I'm driving down the road, there will be no more air coming through and I won't be cooking. But yeah, I mean, you can see where it is up there, some of the foam sticking through underneath the dash and whatnot. So driver's side done, on to the passenger side. All right, and then here's the passenger side. You can see same thing, stuffed back in there and up and over to the windshield post. That's as far over as it'll go. And then you can see faintly I did like a half a piece up top there on the other side of the post for a short section where I was seeing a little daylight coming through in the interior. So yeah, that should seal up the passenger side pretty good between the body and the aluminum. Again, this was a 36-inch piece. I cut off this piece, which is probably like 7 to 8 inches initially, and then I did trim off this piece as well, which is probably another 2 to 3 inches from the end. When I was trying to stuff it down at the very bottom, it was just pretty tight against the passenger side foot box there, and you can even see it's kind of angled forward because it will not push back any further, and I don't want to start distorting the body or causing any other problems. So, but yeah, that is it as far as insulation goes. We are installed, and hopefully no more hot air coming into the cabin. And here we are back on the ground, wheels torqued and put back together. Already looks like the ride height is a lot better. That huge gap in the front's gone. I'm going to take it out for a test drive, see where everything settles and whatnot. But yeah, pretty happy with how it looks. One thing I did forget to mention is when I was installing that foam, I did use just like a 1/2 inch breaker bar through the vent holes. Thankfully I don't have my vents in, and I was able to use that to kind of wedge it back in place. That makes it a lot easier. If you've got your vents closed off and no access, definitely gonna be a little more difficult. So I did that. Also, while it was up in the air, I did check my rear diff fluid level since I had that small leak, everything was good, so it hadn't lost much. So all set there. So I think with that, I'm gonna go out and take this thing for a test drive and see where it ends up. I think I'm gonna end the video here. I'll start off with the results in my next video because I need to still tackle the interior and many other things on the car. So yeah, with that, I'm gonna end this one. Thank you for watching. Hope you're finding this interesting and taking some information away. If you do like what you see, please like, please subscribe. Please hit that notification bell because there will be a lot more to come on this car. And thank you for watching and have a great day.